On May 23, 2019, SpaceX launched a Falcon 9 rocket carrying 60 Starlink satellites into low Earth orbit. The mission? To bring affordable internet to people around the world. These first 60 satellites were to be the pioneers of what SpaceX ultimately envisions to be a mega constellation consisting of at least 30,000 satellites in low Earth orbit, or LEO, broadcasting high-speed, low-latency broadband internet across the world. The farmer in the middle of a rainforest, the explorer atop Mount Everest, the rig worker in rural Middle America, all having access to high-speed, low-cost internet. Currently, unless you live in a part of the world that is hardwired for high-speed internet, your internet options are quite limited, if you have any options at all. While satellite internet can reach many rural locations, the signal from these satellites is provided by a bus-sized spacecraft that is launched 22,236 miles into space. Coupled with the fact that a single satellite provides internet service to an extremely large group of people in a relatively small coverage area, signal reliability, speed, and effectiveness are quite limited. This is where SpaceX's Starlink enters the equation. Known as Starlink, Elon Musk and his team at SpaceX imagined a grid-like system of satellites that would essentially wrap the Earth in low Earth orbit satellites. These 250-kilogram satellites will each connect to several other satellites via laser beams as they rotate around the Earth at speeds exceeding 28,000 kilometers per hour or 17,398 miles an hour. Because these satellites will orbit the Earth at a much closer distance of 550 kilometers as compared to the 22,236 miles, or 35,785 kilometers, of present-day Internet satellites, this will result in vastly increased Internet speeds, low latency, and an increase in reliable connectivity. The receiver here on Earth that connects with and tracks the satellites is about the size of a large pizza and has been affectionately termed by SpaceX as Dishy McFlatface, owing to its flat and dish-like design. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you find our content interesting and want to keep learning about the trailblazers in our world. Leave a comment and let us know you've subscribed, and we'll try to reach out and let you know we appreciate you watching our videos. SpaceX first publicly announced the development of a communications satellite network in January 2015, which coincided with the opening of the SpaceX Satellite Development Facility in Redmond, Washington.
A significant engineering campus, and it's going to be the focus of SpaceX's satellite development activities.
The company began working on the Starlink project that same year, and by early 2018, it had developed and launched its first two prototype satellites, Tintin A and Tintin B, which were deployed into low Earth orbit at an altitude of approximately 500 kilometers. Musk has stated that the name Starlink was inspired by the book The Fault in Our Stars, and the name Starlink was officially trademarked on August 21, 2017. At present, SpaceX is producing 6 satellites a day at its Redmond facility and has launched just over 1,000 Starlink satellites into orbit, with a goal to launch up to 60 more satellites every 2 weeks throughout 2021. SpaceX plans to launch a total of 12,000 satellites by 2025. These satellites will orbit the Earth in 3 orbital shells. 1,440 of these satellites will be in a 550-kilometer altitude shell. 2,825 will be in a 1,110-kilometer altitude shell, and 7,500 will be in a 340-kilometer shell. Once the 12,000 satellites have been put into orbit, SpaceX will have the option to further expand the constellation by adding an additional 30,000 satellites, bringing the Starlink constellation to 42,000 total satellites. To put this into perspective, there are currently just over 2,000 active satellites orbiting our planet. SpaceX has recently launched a paid-for beta service of Starlink in the northern United States and Canada. It's known as the Better Than Nothing beta, referring to the fact that many users in the beta program currently have no good access to internet. Thus, it's better than nothing. Starlink currently charges $499 for a user terminal, along with a $99 monthly fee for the beta version. The service is estimated to provide 50 to 150 megabits per second internet speeds with latency of 20 to 40 milliseconds. There are currently an estimated 10,000 beta testers using this early version of the system. So why does SpaceX want to get into the internet industry? Well, there are ultimately two reasons for this. The first is, as we outlined previously, with current estimates that nearly half of the world's population doesn't have access to internet, Elon Musk has a vision to bring internet to the world, especially to those who need it most in developing countries. The second reason? According to reports, SpaceX estimates that it could make more than $30 billion in revenue by 2025 from the Starlink constellation. Musk sees this as a way for SpaceX to generate revenue that can be used to develop more advanced rockets and spaceships, and he's even gone as far to state that, "We think this is a key stepping stone on the way to establishing a self-sustaining city on Mars and a base on the Moon." Stated simply, Musk wants to use the Starlink revenues to fund his vision of a multi-planetary civilization. As you might expect, this mega project faces a number of challenges. The world's astronomy community has raised concerns about the light pollution and space debris this satellite constellation may cause. SpaceX has responded to these concerns by updating the software and modifying the design of its satellites in many ways, including the installation of a visor called VisorSat, so that they can block the sunlight from hitting the brightest parts of the satellites. SpaceX has also implemented operational plans for the orderly deorbit of satellites nearing the end of their useful lives. Satellites will deorbit within 1 year following the completion of their mission by moving to a disposal orbit. SpaceX has explained that 95% of a Starlink satellite will burn up on re-entry into the Earth's atmosphere, and that there are plans to modify the Starlink design so that future versions will be entirely destroyed on re-entry. One final hurdle, but perhaps the most significant facing Starlink, is whether it can be financially viable.
I mean, it's real important to just set the stage here for LEO communications constellations. Guess how many LEO constellations didn't go bankrupt? Zero.
Right.
Zero. Iridium's doing okay now, but the Iridium 1 went bankrupt. Orbcom went bankrupt. Globalstar bankrupt. Teledesic bankrupt. Am I leaving anyone out? There's a bunch of others that didn't get very far that also went bankrupt. Anyway, they all went bankrupt.
So you're focusing on making it work first?
Not bankrupt.
In early February 2020, Musk tweeted that SpaceX needs to pass through a deep chasm of negative cash flow over the next year or so to make Starlink financially viable. Every new satellite constellation in history has gone bankrupt. We hope to be the first that does not. Do you think Amazon or any other company will be able to compete with Elon Musk's Starlink? Let us know by leaving a comment below and a like on our video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and to press the bell icon as well so that you can watch our future videos as they get released.